If you're a new runner, most of the advice that you're getting is actually slowing you down. And today I'm going to be breaking down the 5 biggest mistakes that I see beginners make that lead to burnout and injury. Now, I'm not sat here as a 70 kilo runner running sub 20 minute 5Ks, sub 45 minute 10Ks, covering miles and miles each week. I sit here as a 110 kilo former rugby player with ankles made of glass who took up running myself this summer and is a parent to a toddler who only gets to run twice per week. But I have coached numerous people to 10Ks, half marathons and marathons over the best part of a decade as a strength and conditioning coach. So I have seen a lot of these mistakes made, and if you stick with me for the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how you can avoid making these errors. So let's get into it. The mistake number 1 is running too fast too soon. Now I'm going to say something a little bit controversial here, because most running coaches will be sat here telling you that you need to do 80% of your miles or your distance at a slow zone 1 or zone 2 conversational pace, and then do 20% of your efforts at a higher intensity. That is fine if you are running 4 to 5 times a week, covering big mileage every single week. But if you're a busy parent, a worker who's only going to get to run a couple of times a week, it's going to be a very slow process trying to stick to that rule to get improvements in your running performance. But you shouldn't be running a flat out 5K or 10K every single session, which is a mistake I see people make quite a lot. And what you should do is have one run that is slower, that is going to build some distance in your legs. So this should be at a comfortable pace, something you can hold for between 40 minutes to an hour. If you're running with someone, you'd be able to hold a conversation at this pace. You might be a little bit out of breath, but you'd be able to talk at this pace. This is going to help develop your aerobic engine. So it's going to build your ability to use the aerobic energy pathway. So we're going to utilize oxygen to create energy that's going to fuel our running performance. I would then have one run which is at a higher intensity, and this is going to help develop the speed at which you can run and how long you can last at that speed. So this is going to be more of a tempo or an interval based session. So it can be a shorter run, or it can be broken up intervals into the shorter distances with some either jogging rest in between or walking rest in between. And what this is going to do is going to help develop your lactate threshold, or it's going to help raise your lactate threshold and develop your VO2 max, which are both very important indicators for running performance, particularly at a faster distance like a 5K. So a good example of an interval session would be something like 400 meter repeats. Now, if you do both these runs, what you're going to do over time is lift the floor on your performance, so develop your aerobic base and improve your ability to tolerate with longer distance runs, and also you're then going to lift the ceiling and develop your lactate threshold and your VO2 max, which is going to help you run at a faster pace for a little bit longer without breaking down. Now, if you develop your aerobic pace, your interval sessions, so doing your slow run actually helps your interval sessions as well, because you're going to be more efficient at recovering from the work efforts within your interval sessions, and you're then going to be able to perform a lot more effectively within those sessions. Mistake number 2 is not doing any strength training. So it's not the early 2000s or the 1990s anymore. You know as well as I do that if you want to run well and you want to avoid injury, you need to be doing some strength training. We need to put to bed the myth that you're going to get bulky if you do any sort of strength training, because that requires a certain type of training. I'm not talking about bodybuilding work, which is what people tend to do when they get big and get that sort of lumbering, slow feeling. I'm talking about real applied strength work. Also, to get big and bulky, it requires quite a big calorie surplus. If you're running, that should not be the case, and you should be able to comfortably do some strength training and not put on huge amounts of muscle mass. Secondly, effective strength training is brilliant for building your capacity and improving your running economy. It's going to make you much more efficient on ground contact. Every ground contact, we get the absorption of force and we get a production of force. If you're a stronger athlete, then you will be able to cope better with those contacts repeatedly. It's going to improve your speed sessions because you'll be able to produce more force more efficiently. And then also it's going to make you much more resilient to injuries. Okay, there is a lot of data across a whole range of sports that shows stronger athletes have a tendency to get injured less because they're better able to cope with the force demands of their sport. Running is no different. So it actually makes you quicker through something called stiffness. Now, I'm not talking about When you wake up in the morning, get out of bed and you feel a bit stiff, I'm talking about your ability to remain stiff on ground contact, to not deform with the ground reactive forces that are coming back at us. And this comes through the effective use of the muscle and the tendon. So strength training is brilliant for developing this ability, as well as and so is plyometric work as well. So make sure these are in your training and you're doing an effective, periodized, well thought out training program in the gym to improve your strength. Unfortunately, if you want to be an effective runner who doesn't get injured, you're going to need to go and get in the gym. Mistake number 3 is spiking your training volume. This is without a doubt one of the most common reasons why new runners end up getting injured or developing overuse injuries very quickly, okay? What people do is they go from 0 to hero, they go from doing absolutely nothing to firing through big high volume runs, trying to run max intensity a lot of the time. And this is a surefire way to get yourself injured. You need to build up to these types of things gradually. Now, building volume, we used to say operate on a 10% rule. So don't increase your volume or your intensity by more than 10% any week. That has largely been sort of debunked. It's been researched, and actually anything between 5 and 15% is fine. But what we really need to do is have a gradual increase of our running volume in order to avoid these types of injuries, okay? Now, there are 3 different factors you can progress that contribute to your overall training load. These are the volume, so the actual distance that you're running, the number of reps within an interval session, and the intensity at which you're running at. Realistically, in any one week, we only want to be increasing one of those factors, because this is a mistake a lot of people make. If they're doing an interval session, they'll increase the reps and they'll also increase the distance, or they'll increase the distance and the intensity together. Only increase one of these things per week. So on your slow run, if you're gradually building the distance, then gradually either build the distance or the reps on your interval sessions, but no more. And make use of deload weeks. Every 4 to 6 weeks, have a week where we drop the volume right back down in order to allow our body to adapt and recover. And mistake number 4 is obsessing over heart rate. Okay, so if you go on running social media, go through some Instagram reels about running, you will come across people preaching over and over again about zone 2, zone 2, zone 2, do lots of zone 2. Now, this is a heart rate zone, and like I said earlier, it's for sort of building your aerobic engine. It is incredibly useful. It's very good to do some running in zone 2. However, if you're a beginner runner, go out and try and run at zone 2 continuously for 30 minutes. To stay in that heart rate zone, you'll find that you're almost having to jog or walk. That's because heart rate zones aren't very suited for beginners. They're developed with quite high level performers. And often, a lot of the time, your smartwatch will predict it wrong as well, because it goes on an age predicted heart rate max, which isn't very accurate. At the start of your running journey, you do not need more data. You just need to get going and go more on your running pace and how you feel. So if you know your 5K time, I would always base your running speeds for your slow and your tempo and interval sessions off of your 5K pace. If you're unsure, then use RPE, or rating of perceived exertion. So this is just a rating out of 10 of how difficult it feels. That will actually be more effective for you in the early stages than the heart rate zones. So your easy runs should be a 3 or 4 out of 10. Tempo and interval runs may be a little bit more difficult, maybe a 6 to a 7 out of 10. But operate more on a subjective feeling. It isn't fully accurate, but it will keep you going, keep you doing the sessions and hitting the volume that you need to do at a good, reasonable rate. And finally, mistake number 5 is thinking there is only one way to be a runner. And this sucks the enjoyment out of it for some runners. A lot of people will just start running, they'll take up running, and then before they know it, they're signing up for half marathons, trying to enter the London Marathon. And running is great for being competitive with yourself. That's what I do. I love being competitive with myself. It's replaced some of the competitiveness I lost from stopping playing rugby. It's also great for keeping you conditioned, but that's what it is. It is a conditioning method and nothing more. Now, I am all for having goals. Having goals is one of the most motivational techniques you can utilize, but don't base your entire training identity around running and your running goals. Don't think that you need to be like the social media influencers who are sharing their PBs every week. Just focus on one goal at a time and enjoy the process of doing it. This will set you up much better for longer term success. That might be running on your own if you're a bit of a lonely introvert like I am. That might be going to parkrun, that might be running with your friends. Or if you are someone who needs the more higher level goals to aim for, that might be doing your half marathons, your Ironmans. But the biggest thing is do it for you and enjoy it. And if you take anything from this video, I hope that that's it. If you made it to now, thank you for watching and sticking through. If you need any more advice on running, then please drop me a message on my Instagram channel and I will get back to you on there. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next one.